Aquaman, DC's movie, Aquaman. This movie stars Jason Momoa, Amber Heard, William Dafoe, a ton of great actors. Patrick Wilson, Nicole Kidman, she's badass. Dolph Lundgren, and I'm going to butcher this name, but Yaha Abdul Mateen II. He plays Manta. I'm unfamiliar with anything that he's done previously, but essentially this movie stars the remake Conan, the Green Goblin, He-Man, Night Owl, Boba Fett's father, Jango Fett, Abin Sur. Bunch of superhero previously in other movies in this movie. I thought that was kind of cool. It seemed like every time they showed somebody, I was like, hey, wasn't it He-Man? And so forth. I like this movie. I did. I really like this movie. Atlantis is visually as awe-inspiring as some of the other big cinematic universes and places like Asgard or Wakanda. Atlantis is almost its own character because of so much that's going on there. There's 7 different tribes. They each have their different personality. There's all kinds of underwater life that you wouldn't expect to see underwater. It was good. The visual aspect of Atlantis was great. They've got to explore that more. It had a kind of a Black Panther feel to it, to me. A guy becomes king because of the death of their royalty parentage, right? Their mother or father dies. Now they've got to become king, but they've got to battle a relative for the crown and then come back and battle him again. I was like, wow, isn't that the plot from Black Panther? That's what I was thinking. Didn't make it a bad movie. I thought about it. I'm thinking about it now, obviously, but it didn't make it a bad movie. It was a good plot. It's like a car chase in a movie. Just because you've seen a car chase in one movie, you see it in another movie, you're not, they did that in Bullet. Nah, it was okay seeing this, though I did recognize it. They had a lot of good jokes in here. They had a lot of humor. It wasn't as dark and horribly heart-wrenching as some of the other DC movies. This one had a little bit of emotion to it. And some of the jokes missed, but enough of them hit that I was like, oh, it made me relax. It put me at ease watching the movie. There were great fights, especially to me, the very beginning, the hand-to-hand fight when, I don't know how much I need to give away. I don't know how much I'm going to give away. This is a spoiler, non-spoiler review. So I'm just going to say the fights in the beginning were pretty good. I enjoyed those. Aquaman's tougher than the comic book Aquaman. This guy, I think, could eat the comic book Aquaman's lunch. This guy's a tough guy. I enjoyed that. I think he could fight Superman. Probably wouldn't win, but he could fight him. Jason and Amber had pretty good chemistry. Aquaman and Mera are one of the comic book's big couples. You got Clark Kent and Lois Lane, you got Peter Parker and Mary Jane, so forth and so on. This is one of the big couples, and it was good to see them on screen, and it was good to see that the two actors at least looked like they were kind of meshing. That was kind of good. This story takes place after the events of Justice League, so they know about Steppenwolf coming and being defeated. I don't know if they know about Darkseid coming from Apocalypse, but You know, I know because we saw the previews, you and I. But let's see what happens. Black Mantis is Black Manta is a combination in this movie of Wolverine. He keeps popping that claw out. Wolverine, Iron Man with the suit, and Batman, apparently with the brain and everything. Because he seems to be a smart guy. Because he's putting the suit together and everything. And we'll get into that in the spoiler review. But he seems to be a pretty smart guy. He suffers a tragedy. And again, I can't stress it enough. If a villain suffers and that forces him to become either the villain or a worse villain, then you've got somebody that the audience can say, oh man, wow, I can dig that. Because if that happened to me, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would snap too if this event happened to me. So a bad thing happens to him and he goes from bad guy to a worse guy. And it's good for the movie. It's really good for the movie. I've always liked Black Manta. With the great big oversized helmet and the two big blasts of energy. They explain that too in the movie, which was kind of cool. Why the helmet is so big and how the energy blasts are coming from his eyes. It's a origin story for Manta, but it's also an origin story for Aquaman. Aquaman at this point, when the movie starts, is already full grown and everything, but it has flashbacks to give you his origin, which is really cool. Stay till the end, man, because there's one Easter egg. I thought there would be two, but there was one Easter egg. It's kind of cool. Stay till the end. You'll want to see that. This movie may not have been a Marvel movie, but it did have a Marvel feel also in the way that it gave you enough at the beginning of this guy's origin and enough of the story to pull you in and get you ready for another story. It had enough comedy and levity. It had enough action. It was a subtle mix of a few things. If it wasn't Aquaman, I could have confused that with a Marvel movie fairly easily. Marvel has a character, speaking of Marvel, that's called Namor, who is, you know, they're rip-offs of one another. And he's Marvel's Aquaman. I was looking forward to them doing that movie also, but this movie is good enough that I don't think the audience would dig it if they did Marvel's version of Aquaman. They'd say, oh, that's a rip-off. That's no good. You can't do that, man. So I'm not sure that they're going to be able to do that. This was a good movie. I want to tell you about the story, but it's spoiler free, so I can't tell you about it. But let me just say, this movie was really good. It introduces a lot of interesting characters from the trench. Those guys are spooky. They just, without making noise, you're standing there and one of them's behind you and everything. That was kind of cool. It's essentially a Indiana Jones type story. They've got to find a particular item and they've got to go to these locations and they've got to do some research and stuff. Man, and there's people chasing them, you know, like with Indiana Jones, when the guys had the darts and he was like, start the plane, start the plane. They have adventures like that. And it's kind of good. So it's not just a superhero and a villain trying to kick the crap out of each other. There's an actual story that's happening too, which is kind of cool. I kind of dig that. I dig this movie enough that I'm going to give it 8 bags of popcorn, man. It would have been 9. It was real close to 9. Almost 9. Almost 9. But we're going to go with 8. But that's what I think. More importantly, what do you think? Have you seen the movie? What's your favorite DC comic book superhero type movie? Just talk about it in the comments. And as always, if you like the video, if you like the content, subscribe. And then like.